Churches everywhere are asking the same question. How do we engage in the digital world? At 88 Frames Media, we specialize in helping churches like yours engage the digital mission field. From crafting compelling videos and social media content to managing your online presence, we'll help you reach your community where they are, online. Because here's the thing, your mission hasn't changed, but the tools to reach it have. Let's connect your church to the digital mission field. Visit 88framesmedia.com to learn more.
Do you like my little mic addition?
I do. Your BB-8?
That is Boba Fett.
Who?
You uncultured swine. You know what they're made of? It's just a little stuffed animal on a slap bracelet.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, right?
Said no one ever.
Cutie cuffs or something. Yeah.
Cutie cuffs.
They're awesome. So shut your mouth. Kick it off.
Yes, sir. Welcome, boys and girls, to yet another fantastic episode of the Sanctum Sanctorum Podcast, where comics and Christ culture collide. I am host 1, Joey.
And I am player number 2, Chris.
We're excited that you're here. Thank you for joining us. On this show, we talk about the Lord and the Bat and the comics and many of the things that you are so interested in, which is why you're here. You would not be listening to the show if it was not for your love of the topics we cover. And if you, for some reason, you just stumbled upon this nonsense, we're glad you're here. I hope you stay.
We are super glad you're here.
Chris, how you doing?
I'm okay. My son has been sick all weekend, and that's after a week and a half of my wife being sick and then me being sick. And now I have an inner ear infection. So I'm doing, I'm still alive. So that's the takeaway. I'm yeeting.
What does yeet mean?
My understanding is that to yeet something is to throw it, but this is in reference to the wrestler Jey Uso. That's his, audience participation catchphrase word.
Yeet.
So.
All right.
His big thing is to go 4 letters, 1 word, yeet.
I see.
You're welcome for that. You are so welcome.
We're going to change the subject altogether. We've got a comic culture moment of the day, and
we do.
I was actually between 2 of them, and I told Chris what they are, and he says, you pick. And we don't know which one we're going to get, so you get to roll the dice.
Hopefully I have enough knowledgeable knowledge to do this.
I've got a number behind my back, 1 or 2.
Oh, jeez. Okay, that doesn't work because you can change the number to just be the one you want if I don't pick
Sure,
it.
but I'm not gonna.
Let's do... I'm host number 2, so let's do 2.
Let's do it. Okay, topic number 2. Comic book actors are paid millions of dollars. Millions! The amount of money that Robert Downey Jr. Allegedly is making for just Doomsday alone is an insane, astronomical.
Well, I mean, he had an insane paycheck for the tiny part he had in Spider-Man: Homecoming.
It's ridiculous, and I'm not trying to pick on the guy, but I think the theme of actors who are paid gross amounts of money, regardless of the movie's success, is something that we have to talk about. Because that's really where I started questioning the whole process. It's like, these actors get paid, and then hopefully the movie makes the money back. So the studios have to put out this astronomical amount. How do we feel about that? You know, given, and not that everything needs to be social justice or that we have to solve the problems of the world with superhero actors, but it does make you pause and say, that's a lot of money to sort of show up and snap your finger. And again, I'm not trying to take away the difficulty of what they do. And I'm not saying I could do it any better, but it's a lot of money. So how does that strike you as a consumer of this content?
Well, to be perfectly honest, it makes me feel icky. The obscene amount of money that is put into not, and I look, I don't want to just pick on Hollywood actors because it's athletes, it's big time musicians. And look, that stuff takes work, it takes skill and training, and it's time consuming. And people, it's for our entertainment. So I respect that there's a craft behind it and there's a skill level and whatnot behind it. But I just feel like it's such an obscene amount of money when there is so much that could be done with that money. You know what I mean? Yeah, I saw I don't know, this like round table of actors, and Denzel Washington was one of them, and he talked, he was talking about how people say that acting, what was your most challenging job? And he was like, well, I can tell you it wasn't any of the movies I did, because let's be honest, we're playing pretend for a living. Like we're
Yeah,
making a movie. That's probably the easiest job you can have.
he gets it.
And it's like, he makes a lot of money. He's a great actor. He works hard. We're entertained by him, and I appreciate that. But I need the homeless to be housed, and funding to go to schools, and funding to go to rehab programs, funding to go to healthcare, and service for veterans, more so
And
than I
that's not to
need.
say that these actors don't donate in those regards. Of course they do, and we hear that.
But but the money being passed around, like when you hear that somebody was paid $1 billion per episode of a TV show.
Yeah.
That's insane. That's insane. And I know that you do this for a living, but it's, does anybody need that kind of a living? You know what I mean? Do you need that lavish of a lifestyle? So it really makes me feel gross. The amount of money. Now,
Right.
does that stop me from consuming the TV and the movies and the music? No, but I still feel.
No, and I think,
Ugh.
like, I don't bring it up to just be like, well, burn the establishment, we don't need it, and I'm going to boycott it. No, I think very similar to you. Like, I enjoy this, but I think a sobering question could be for these actors and for these people who play these roles: would you do it for less money? Right? Like, there's people who are making $40,000 a year. Would you do this role for that amount of money? Because you love the character, like you say, and you love the story, and it really brought to life this experience. Everything that is said, it's sort of hard to take that seriously with that many zeros after it. So if it was less, would you still do it? I think an answer to that question would give us an insight as to why do we do this. And, like, I'm all for servicing the fans.
You hear the occasional story of an actor that was like, they took a huge pay cut so that the crew could get paid more. Robin Williams famously said that he will only work on a movie if half the crew is made up of people who are homeless or on
Yeah.
unemployment or something like that. And I think that those gestures are really wonderful to hear about, but you're still making $1 billion for a movie. You're still making $50 million in your paycheck to do a movie. It just feels like that's problematic.
I don't know if there's a quick solution to this other than constantly having the conversation. By constantly bringing it up and trying to work it and trying to figure out, is there a better way? Is there something that, yes, this speaks to the art, but there's life that needs to be lived beyond the art. There's people who are really suffering who could really use a superhero-like support, and maybe we don't need to throw that many zeros towards the actors. Because here's the thing. Are the VFX artists getting the same amount of money? No, they're not. Are the directors making the same amount? No, they're not. You're trying to secure talent, and you're trying to do that so that you can garner more of a response from the audience. That's fine. But if these actors and actresses who are paid exorbitant amounts of money would do it for less money so that you could say, hey, studio, you need to go support this charity. You need to give back to this. You need to do that. I'd be more on board with that.
100% I would be on board with that. And I wish that was the attitude that more people had. The more of these people that make that money had.
But audience, what are you on board with? Leave us a comment on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Let us know your thoughts on how much actors should be paid, whether we're missing something, because I reserve the right to be wrong, or whether we should just keep this in the cultural dialogue of whether or not actors should be paid this much.
Yeah.
And speaking of,
you made me feel all icky now. Ugh.
I made you feel something.
You made me feel the ick.
Well, here's something to feel. A plot synopsis. We are covering one of the greatest films ever made, and I'm going to go on record and say that.
My God. You can go on record and say it all you want. That does not make it true.
Did I change your feelings?
Did you change it just now with just saying that?
Yeah.
Yes, my mind's been altered.
Good. We're covering Batman Begins, and I got a plot synopsis of said film.
All the way back from 2005.
It is, and ironically, we didn't say this at the top, it is our 20th episode, and we're covering a movie that's 20 years old.
Oh, happy birthday, Batman and us.
Happy birthday, Begins. And here's your plot synopsis. Cue foreboding music. Here we go. After falling down a well and getting the crap scared out of him by sky mouses, little Bruce Wayne could use a pick-me-up. So a night at a bat-themed opera and your parents getting unalived is just the ray of sunshine he needs. Years later, Bruce gets invited to become a ninja with the League of Dorks on the top of Mount Plot Device. Together, they go ice skating and play hide-and-seek as they prepare to infiltrate city after city and reset the world for bad guy reasons. Now returning to Gotham with the help of his snarky butler and a gadget guy who heard, "I want to dress like a bat," and said, "Say less." Bruce becomes Batman. Proof that if you're rich enough, sad enough, and sound like a broken garbage disposal, you too can become a symbol of terror. Fighting crime, corruption, and a creepy Wizard of Oz themed bad guy, can Bruce save the soul of Gotham from itself? Or is A Dark Knight just the beginning? Watch the birth of a legend in 2005's film that made wearing eyeliner cool again, Batman Begins. Dun, dun, dun!
That was all right.
All right?
That was all right.
Sky Mouses!
Yeah.
It's funny!
It was, yeah, okay. It was funny.
You've got an attitude about this movie, and I've never seen a better film.
All right, well, speaking of the better film, it stars Christian Bale, Cillian Murphy, Katie Holmes, Michael Caine, Liam Neeson, Gary Oldman, and Morgan Freeman, and is directed by Christopher Nolan, and is the inaugural entry of the Dark Knight trilogy, often cited as the upper echelon of DC film and all that.
Absolutely. As it should be, might I add.
The Dark Knight, yes. The other two, not so much. This one, just...
I'm going to fight you.
Okay, well, I mean, we'll get into it.
We're going to fight. There's some good stuff in this movie, and why don't you go first? Because, like I told you, I have 25 good things about this movie. 25!
I've got like,
So you should go because I'm sure yours are some of mine, and we don't have to
oh, I'm
repeat.
sure. Well, one I know that you have, or at least I hope that you have, because I will continue to say this about every single Batman movie that we cover, live action, animated, TV series. Alfred is always the hero of the movie for me.
I don't know if he's been done better. Michael Gough
He,
is Michael Gough, but this is Alfred.
I mean,
From a sage wisdom perspective, from the caring perspective, from
yeah,
the snark, the like, all of it is here. And I feel like Michael Gough gets a little bit of pieces, but everything about Alfred is found in Michael Caine.
I would definitely agree that he is one of, if not the best, he's definitely in the upper echelon of Alfred actors. And just
Yep.
Alfred is never disappointing. You could pick the best Batman movie, the worst Batman movie, live action, animated, and Alfred is still, he's more of the hero than anyone else in the movie to me.
He's very funny here too.
Oh, he is. He's got a bit of a snark to him, and I do like that.
Yep.
Um, Speaking of Alfred, I mean, I just went through the list of actors in this movie, and I mean, you have Gary Oldman, Morgan Freeman, and Michael Caine, who just shine in everything they're in. They fully embrace the roles
Yep.
they're in, and I think Gary Oldman, especially the work he does with Sergeant Gordon, Lieutenant Gordon. Later in the series into Commissioner Gordon, he just does a phenomenal job of really embodying this character and this, lone knight in a very corrupt system and a very corrupt world, and
Yep.
not knowing how to toe the line between, do I work with this vigilante? I want to do the right thing. He's the only one doing the right thing, but the wrong way. And you see this conflict inside of him. That's really great.
I agree, and I love that he was the beat cop that comforted young
Yes.
Bruce when his parents died. That is unique to this trilogy,
Yes.
and I love it.
Yes, I do like that very much.
They don't touch that anywhere else, and even as I sort of knew it, but then as I'm watching it again for the episode, I'm like, that's brilliant.
Oh, it is.
Because as you know in the trilogy, spoiler alert, he then pays that off at the end of Dark Knight Rises.
End of the third one, yeah.
Yeah, where then Gordon realizes who it is because of what Bruce says. And again, it's just an immaculately choreographed relationship. And I love that it's in there.
Well, and it shows that Gordon had such an impact on him at such a young age that, of course, he would be the cop that he would go to and, make his ally.
Totally.
Now, my wife watched this with me, and she disagreed with me, but I really liked the whole.
Your podcast wife might disagree with you too.
Yeah, well, no, I really liked the whole training scene, all the League of Shadows training stuff. I thought was.
It's great.
I love a
you.
good montage. I love seeing where the character gets their different skills, when it's like, oh, we employ theatricality and the ice fight and the whole thing with like cutting the arm of the other ninjas and stuff. I think that's a cool scene.
Yep.
And along with that, I love all the stuff they do to build the bat suit as well, where they have to order the ears from one place and the mask from another, and it's made of the wrong material, and then for a movie that Christopher Nolan, which I appreciate, so tried to set into this world of realism, of like, there's still some fantastical elements here, and one of them is the fact that Wayne Enterprises just happens to be working on all of these projects of like, oh, we have this amazing fabric and we have this amazing bodysuit, we have this amazing car, and we have this amazing tech that, it's like, oh, it just happens to be everything I need for my adventure. So it's a little
much.
It's a little silly and a little outside the realism, but I like that he didn't invent all of it.
Correct. And I liked that we got gear because we needed gear and not because it had it wasn't bat shark repellent. Right? Like, it
Hmm.
wasn't, okay, here's a scenario where I need something and let's just whip it out because I've got it. It's, hey, this didn't work, so now we need to order this so that this is a function of my suit. So it was
Right.
progressive, and it built upon learning to be the character, which was genius.
And you see that later on too
No
when
other
he's
Batman had done that yet.
yeah, and you see that later on too when he's like, "Oh, you want to be able to turn your head," and this kind of stuff. It's like you see him making adjustments along the way, and I think that they did a good job with that.
Yep.
The visuals were great. The score was terrific. It really set the mood
Woo!
without becoming a theme song.
Yep.
Now, I love the
No,
I love a good
it
theme
was
song, but
brilliant.
he really set the mood without it being Danny Elfman's score or
Yes.
Hans Zimmer's score or something like that, which I thought was really good.
It is Zimmer.
No, but what I mean is without making it like one of their theme songs,
Oh,
like where
yeah.
it's like this music is only like
At the same time, it's instantly recognizable.
it is, but not in the same way that like the Jurassic Park theme, the Back to the Future theme, the Batman '89 theme, like that stuff is
So what you're saying
immediately
is
recognizable.
pop it's not a pop jingle, it's a score.
Yes, yes.
Got it. And I don't know if you know this, but the first 4 to 9 tracks of the score are different species of bats, and they spell Batman with the first. It's an anagram.
Oh, I did not know that. Well, I've never looked at the soundtrack to be honest, but I did not know that.
It's Barbastella, it's Artabius, it's Tridaria, it's Marcodius, Antrosnius, and Nicertus. And I said all of that wrong, but that's what it is.
And those are all species of bat.
Sky mouses.
Okay.
Yep. But music is flawless.
Yeah, the music it's really really great. And I think that
You sure you don't like this movie?
trust me when I get into the problems, I think that for this is not for good or bad, and even though I'm not a huge fan of the movie itself, it really ushered in a new era of superhero movie.
100%. Everybody says, like, oh, it's Iron Man. Like, that ushered in this new. No, that ushered in Marvel. This is where we drew the line and said, oh, superhero movies can be a thing.
Yes, but one of the things that I think is funny is that people will act like there was such a huge gap between Batman and Robin and Batman Begins.
There wasn't.
It was only 8 years. And if this came
Yeah.
out in 2005, then it's likely they started working on it in 2003 ish.
Yeah.
So it was only, and then, you needed, give a little time for the aftermath of Batman and Robin and for people to really decide how they didn't like it. Let's call that 98. You
Yeah.
really only got about 4 to 5 years without a Batman movie. So people are like, man, was it better than that? Of course it was. But
Anything is better
but
than
it was
that.
like Batman had died until decades later this resurrected it. No, it was a couple of years later they figured out how to do it better, and so I just think that's a little silly when people get so hard up about it.
It's probably the longest gap between a Batman movie, but it's not this astronomical. It's not decades.
It's probably the same gap as it was between The Dark Knight Rises and Batman v Superman.
Dark Knight Rises was
2012, right?
11?
11, 12?
20. Yeah, somewhere around there. And then BVS was 16.
Yeah, so it's roughly the same.
It's around the same.
Same-ish amount of time between seeing Batman on screen, but
We're
that
saying
wasn't
the
a good or
same
bad
thing.
thing. That was just a little anecdote.
Just a thing.
My last thing is that the last hour is mostly really good. That's when I feel like it really picks up. So
I'm gonna pick
that's
you
it.
up.
That's what I got. You
That's
wish you
it.
could pick me up. That's it.
All right.
I was kind of bored.
Dude, you hit 4 of my 25 things. Now, some of these are thematic and they all go together. But let's talk about. I love that we start with where fear comes from. This entire movie is about fear.
Mm-hmm.
The whole thing. Okay? It starts where no other Batman movie has started. Why he is afraid. Because 89 and everything up until that point just talks about him fighting crime as though that's his motivation. Not in my city, not here. No, we've humanized him and we've essentially connected to the audience to say we all fear something. And I love that because now it's not a comic book movie anymore. It's a movie, and we're using a comic book character to tell a story.
Okay. That's
genius. That's why this movie, to me, stands above every other Batman movie, and quite frankly, the trilogy as an entity, because it's telling you something and it's using the characters to do it. It's a lot like, I don't know if you ever saw Godzilla -1.
Mm-hmm.
Phenomenal movie, but it's telling a story about family and it's using Godzilla to do it. And this is a movie about fear. And as I'll get to in a second, the psychology of Batman, but it's using Batman to tell a theme instead of saying, okay, we're in Gotham and he needs to fight crime and blah, blah, blah. No, it's bigger than that. And you see it all throughout the movie because it's about something. The bats are the fear, the loss of his parents. He even says as he's dying, don't be afraid. You must master your own fear. If I hadn't gotten scared, I could have prevented my parents' death. The power of fear. And most men fear what they can't see. It's throughout the entire thing. And it's so masterfully woven together story-wise that, you know, I don't really care about the bad stuff because it's so tight with what it's trying to do.
It's time my enemies share my dread.
That's a dumb line, but you get what I'm saying, right?
I understand what you're saying, but I think that serves to be one of my other points, which is this is not a Batman movie. It's just a movie that Batman happens to be in.
And that's why I like it.
Oh, that's one of the reasons I dislike it.
So I talked about the psychology of Batman. Another thing, I don't know if you knew this, but before Nolan came up with a script about this, he did a deep dive on English literature and a character study to fully flesh out the character because he felt like that's what was missing from the 89 Batman and everything that had been done up until that point. He felt like as iconic and beautiful and stunning and animated and descriptive as those worlds were and as much respect as he had for them, he felt like there was no character. And so he really wanted to dive into it. And so the fact that he went back into a character study of a man haunted by traumatic past and battling inner demons to save his city, ultimately, for me, becomes one of the strongest versions of the character on screen. That's fine.
All right.
Keep that face. I'll keep going.
Fine.
I love that we are introduced to a problem, not an antagonist. If you think about it, the antagonist is a manifestation of the problem, but the villain of the film is fear. It's not Scarecrow. And I can see on your face you're going to say that's the problem. But I think that's where Dark Knight does the exact same thing. Joker's just a manifestation of the real problem under that movie. And I love that for an hour and change, we don't even meet Crane. And there is the twist that we don't really know who Ra's al Ghul is. But it's about fear. And even when we meet Crane, he's on there for like 5 minutes and we're not even sure he's a threat. If you hadn't watched the trailer, you wouldn't have even known. But I love that it's not about the good guy versus the bad guy. It's about the character who's dealing with the issue, and there's different manifestations of the issue.
But then you're wasting really interesting and complex characters.
If you kill them immediately, yes. And
which they kind of did.
They kind of did, but Scarecrow shows up later.
Barely.
Not well.
Barely.
Right, I agree.
He shows
Not
up,
well.
And he kills...
He shows up as a cameo.
And he kills Al Ghul.
He doesn't have to save him. He's not going to kill him, but he doesn't have to save him.
Don't even get me started on that BS. It is ridiculous.
It's such a great line. I'll keep moving.
Keep moving.
You know, like we said, this is a part of a trilogy. You don't get the brilliance of Dark Knight without this. And from that perspective alone, I think this has to have some place, right? Like, you don't get Return of the King without Fellowship of the Ring. You don't get Empire without A New Hope. You just don't do it because you have to build on something. And so I feel like this was a foundation worth building on that got us to something even greater. But as you look back, you have to realize this is really good.
I don't think you need it.
You 100% need it.
Okay, can I interrupt your good to explain why I don't think you need it?
Go for it, because we've had this conversation, but refresh my memory.
All it is an origin story. We've had years and years of Batman movies and TV all retelling Batman's origin. Martha and Thomas Wayne get shot in an alley by Joe Chill, sometimes by the Joker. Batman goes to various places to train and become a super ninja and super smart and super tech savvy. Batman then fights crime. Batman makes a no-kill rule. Those are all great things, but we had, before this, 5 movies, decades and decades of comics and animated series all already explaining that. We don't need it. We didn't need it to set up the Dark Knight because you already knew that stuff. If you had seen any other Batman story before this, you already knew it.
Sure, but to that, one, you've got a brand new audience for 2005 that does not know 89, and two, this is a brand new world and context.
Yeah, but you don't need brand new world, maybe, but
no, you don't need it.
You don't need the character context. Batman is a world known name. He's one of the most famous characters in the world.
But again, you don't get his struggle with crime and why the Joker is so screwing with his brain if you don't understand why he's afraid in the first place.
I don't know. I think it's,
you need it. I agree to disagree, but I think you need it.
I think the Dark Knight stands on its own. I think you need the Dark Knight for the Dark Knight Rises, but I don't think you need Batman Begins. I think if I showed somebody who had never heard of these movies only the Dark Knight, it would be and the Dark Knight Rises, it would be completely standalone as a 2-part movie, and that's it.
Maybe. I don't know. I'll keep going. Speaking of the background, I love that we got a good deep dive into the Wayne family. Because it doesn't matter. Like in 89, I believe it's in Kilmer's in Forever, you sort of get the flashback, but you don't know why like it mattered. There was no relational pull. There was no heartstrings to pull. You fell in love with the relationship between him and his dad.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
And it was played really well. So even when he's dying and going and says to his son, "Don't be afraid," it's like, oh, look at the wound. Look at the deep father wound that plays on the fear. You never got that before. Again, this is a character study.
No, that's true. I actually wouldn't have minded a whole origin movie of just like Bruce growing up and Thomas Wayne, trying to politically save the city.
Agreed.
I think that would be a good story.
And so because of all of that, I actually didn't mind Crime Alley showing up. I agree with you. Sometimes it's like, all right, we get it. But because we needed to understand why and all of the factors that play into it, I thought that was done really, really well.
I would say that it's probably the best depiction of Crime Alley.
Yeah.
But again, that's unfortunately for me marred by the fact that before and since we've had it so many times that did it do it better? Yes. But did it do it again? Yes.
Yeah, but you still went and saw it. You still like the character.
Because I'll always go and see it.
Right, so if you're always going to go, you can't complain that they're going to retell the whole thing over and over again, because you know they're going to do that. Because it's our version now.
Looking at these movies with a critical eye more than just as a fan.
I thought, I'm going to butcher his name, but Raid Serbedzia
The homeless guy, he's a Russian actor. I love that he was in there. He goes, "This is a nice coat." This is a nice coat. I must quote that probably once a year when I get my winter jacket out. The cinematography is now iconic Nolan.
Oh, yeah.
And I love that it's used sort of here. Like, he had movies before, but this is really where it's like, oh, that looks like Inception. That looks like Tenet. That looks like Interstellar.
Kind of become what he's known for. Definitely kind of created his visual style.
Absolutely. You touched on this, that the mob, the corruption, the fear, like, we really got a sense of the depravity of Gotham here. And they took their time with it, right? Like, there's interactions between Trask.
Oh, yeah.
There's interactions that you see, like, just corruption going on. And so you really felt the weight of Commissioner Gordon or
Lieutenant Gordon.
What is he at this point?
Lieutenant, Sergeant/Lieutenant.
You feel his struggle because they painted Gotham really well, and it sets the stage for, again, the problem. Cillian Murphy is stupendous. I feel like he nails this role, and one of the things that it's in
this
the behind
was an early
scenes,
role for him too.
It's earlier. He had a couple things, but not Oppenheimer. But one of the reasons he constantly takes his glasses off is because Nolan has gone on record and said his eyes are so piercingly blue, he wanted to be able to catch it with camera.
That's why he keeps taking the glasses off?
That's why he keeps taking the glasses off.
That's cool.
I also like that they use Scarecrow because he dates back to the earliest comics of Batman. He was never used. It's his first on-screen appearance, and he was actually slated, you probably know this, he was slated to be the villain of the 5th Burton Schumacher film that was canned.
Yes.
So, yeet.
And also, along with that, the design of the mask and the design of the costume that gets criminally underused that you see at the very end with him on horseback.
Yep.
Phenomenal. One of the best Scarecrow looks.
I love that he's on the horse, too.
Oh, I love that he's on the horse. Although, to be perfectly honest, I also think that the mask with just the business suit is equally as unpleasant.
Yeah.
So it's
it's all unpleasant.
Like, I think leaning into the full costume is cool, but the just the mask and the suit is also freaking me out a little.
I love that Batman stands out in the environment of this Gotham. And here's what I mean by that. Like, the audience, us, and the people of Gotham are both amazed at this depiction, this display, this performance of a guy who would stand up for justice in an environment that's just caving in on itself. It's very stylized, and yet it fits like a glove. And where I feel like Burton was incredibly stylized, it wasn't relatable. This was. And so I feel like it really grabs you as an audience member to say, this could really happen. Whereas before, it's just the comic. It's the first time that that's ever happened in a Batman movie, at least for me.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think that he's definitely setting it in a believable world, and I think that to a degree, Batman kind of fits into this world. But then I also feel like within this world of the trilogy, some of the villains, the way he depicts them, don't quite fit into the world. Like Scarecrow, Joker, Two-Face, even Bane. I feel like it's like you're starting to bleed a little bit into the fantastical, which is fine. I don't dislike it, but I think that at some point you need to go either full. I think this set the groundwork for the Batman, which I think is much more grounded in reality than the Dark Knight trilogy. But I do like real world Batman.
The sound editing, particularly at the dock scene when we first meet Batman, is excellent. And it feels, just that scene, it feels like a horror film. And the reason it feels like a horror film is because you're seeing Batman from the criminal's perspective. You as the audience are now the criminals, where you don't know where he is and you're freaking out. He's whispering in your ear. If you listen in your headphones, it's horrifying. But it was really mixed well. And yeah, and it's less of seeing him and it's more the quick arrive, and it actually scares you. I don't remember if I saw this in theaters. I probably did. But, you know, watching it again just with fresh eyes was like, oh, that's a horrifying scene.
No, that's a good scene. It's definitely a good scene. I think that the best part of that scene is that part where the guy's like, "Where are you?"
Here.
That's a pretty like, whoa,
Yep.
whoa, didn't expect him there. Upside down. Yeah, that's a good scene.
Yeah, it's great. There's one pan.
Then they kind of ruin it with the, "Where are the drugs?"
That's my favorite. There's one pan scene where Bruce is standing on the edge of a building, and to me, that scene took us from this is a comic book to this is cinema. It's just the way, I mean, it's the sustained chord, it's the broodingness, but it's him looking over, it's the color, it's the mixing of it. Like, all of it is just like, oh, this is a movie. This is really well done. Not just like, oh, we had some budget and we threw it.
Movie.
Yeah, you know? All right, two more things. And then I'll stop waxing poetic. Obviously, sequels are made, but villains just sort of keep popping up, right? Like, in fact, there is a line of that in Dark Knight where Alfred is saying, you started this. And I love that. Because in other Batman iterations, even since this, we have never touched the fact that, you know, the reason the villains keep popping up is because of you. And so the thing that you're trying to prevent, you're actually causing. It's because of your antics. That invites more chaos. Again, brilliant. It's not, oh, there's evil in the world and I just need to go get it. It's like, no, you're trying to do a good thing. And even when you try, you don't always get what you want. And the villains aren't going to relent just because you think you're doing a good thing. It's actually because of you. And so the idea of escalation in this trilogy, I felt was genius.
I agree, but also I think that, you know, without Batman, you know, the League of Shadows was planning to...
Yeah, they were going to do it anyway.
Destroy Gotham anyway. They just found that having Bruce put them in a better position to do it. Scarecrow was already putting his drugs out into the city. You know, they just had to kind of escalate because Batman got involved. So I don't know if I 100% agree that Batman is the reason behind all the villains, but I think he definitely pushes them to be more theatrical and take it a step further.
Yeah.
I think is a fair way to say it.
Yeet.
Yeet.
Last thing.
Yeah, if you're gonna say it, you got to do your hands like that. Just so you know.
You will not see me doing that.
I want you to do it just once before this episode ends.
I'm gonna wait, and I'm gonna pick my moment. But last thing, I love the piano entrance into the Batcave.
Yeah, that's fun.
It is a nod to the 66 Batman. I actually figured it out. I'm a musician by trade. It's C#5, D5, and then it's C#6, D6, and G#5, A5. And what I love about it is, yes, it is the nod to the 66, but everything is swelling. The tension is rising. The action's kicking into gear. The stakes are higher than ever. And then there's just a light little mood shift to remind us to have fun.
Yeah, and I like that they're very like dissonant, incorrect chords.
Yep. Everything is not dark, brooding, and grim. It's like, oh, by the way, you should enjoy yourself.
And that's something, honestly, that I like in every Batman movie. Is one of the things I look forward to in every, you know, past, present, and future Batman movie is how do they make the entrance of the cave this time? Is it
How are we
gonna
getting in?
be? Is it gonna be, you know, the button in the fish tank? Is it going to be pulling the pendulum of the grandfather clock? Is it going to be the piano? Is it going to be the secret wall, the book? I love all that stuff. That stuff's always fun.
And that wraps up my good. I'm exhausted.
I'm exhausted just listening to it. My God.
Shut up. Give us an ad.
When the harsh realities of city life weigh you down, give yourself a break and immerse yourself in the Nanda Parbat Spa and Resort. After sword sparring with our trained assassin staff, take advantage of our full-body ice baths. Breathe deep the hallucinogenic fear toxin created with our rare blue flowers. Enjoy our complimentary ninja gear, swords, and petty criminal for you to take vengeance out on. If you can make the climb up the mountain, the cost of staying is free. You'll never want to leave. Not that we'd let you. Nanda Parbat Spa and Resort, where we worry about your chest because your arms take care of themselves.
Well done.
The end.
We got a new rating system for these. We've got the Joker scale.
We're going to throw it up right here just to remind the people.
Yeah, check it out. It's right here. Now that you've seen it, we're going to wipe it away.
Wow, like magic.
I give that ad a ledger. That's great.
I'll take it.
Well done.
Love it.
Do you have any other? Because I don't.
Do I have any other? I have two things that I guess would fit into. Well, I said one before that it's not a Batman movie. It's just a movie that Batman is in.
Yep.
Which is not good or bad. It's kind of other. And also something that isn't a bad thing, but it bothered me is the name pronunciation. It's not Falcone, it's Falcone. Falcone is how that name is pronounced. Same with Ra's al Ghul. It's Ra's al Ghul. It's not Raz al Ghul. It's Ra's al Ghul. And every time they said Falcone and Raz, it just really bothered me.
Did it razz you?
Yes, it was razzing me, and it made me want to punch somebody right in the Falcone.
Clever.
So those would be my others. Again, that doesn't like make the movie good or bad. It's those things specifically, but they bothered me because I know how they should be pronounced.
I, despite my love of this film, have some bad things.
Oh,
and I think you have more than I do.
I definitely have more than you do. So why don't you share with us your itty bitty list of bad things?
Sounds great.
And then I'll flush them out.
Why do they walk into Crime Alley? Like, you're the Prince of Gotham. You're this big wig. You built the train system. You'd walk out the front door. You wouldn't go out the back alley. You just wouldn't do it.
I'm not sure why they went out the side door at all, because if any of our listeners have ever been to a,
Any
an
play.
opera or a musical, a play, if you've ever been to a theatrical production of something, those are the emergency exits. Like,
you walk out the way you walked in.
You go out the way you came in. Now, they won't let you back in usually until, intermission, but you walk out those doors. Like, they have people stationed at those doors to do so. So, yeah, that was a weird choice. Like, you kind of set yourself up for bad things to happen there.
And speaking of Crime Alley, you'd think that his fear of alleys would trump his fear of bats. If we're going to go off of fear, he should be Alley Man, not Batman.
Or fear of guns.
One is a bit more traumatic than the other, in my opinion, but I digress. So riddle me this.
I'm riddled.
Instead of killing one dude in the monastery, he kills, everyone. I'm not an executioner. My bat rear end, you set the whole thing on fire. It would have been easier to kill the one dude.
I have that.
What are you doing?
Yeah, I have that. That's a big problem. He set the whole thing on fire, and he only saved one person, which also didn't make any sense.
Right.
Because then he later lets that train crash. I don't have to save you. You have no idea what Gotham City is riddled with the homeless. That's a
Yep.
major part of the movie is the disenfranchise of Gotham. That train explosion, how many people could that have killed?
All of them.
How many innocent people who had nothing to do with anything? Yeah.
It doesn't matter. Katie Holmes is a nightmare. Every line is delivered flat, lifeless,
She's the number
and
one
all
thing
she
I have.
does is move the plot along. The character isn't found in the comics, and she is the one thorn in this entire project.
And I have never been more grateful for I normally hate when a new actor plays the same character in a movie that is not a reboot, and that I've never been more grateful for.
Which Maggie Gyllenhaal didn't do any favors,
No,
but it's the character. The character sucks.
I mean, the character is not great, but she's a much better actress, and I think
Yeah.
it was a welcomed replacement.
Yeah, so Katie Holmes is a nightmare.
All I could picture was Katie Holmes just going like, "Bruce Dawson, come on." The city's in trouble, and I've got a history test due, Dawson.
That's good. Searchlights, like the one that Falcone is tied to, are incredibly hot.
I have that too. Yep.
So anyone held up against that would be horribly burned and disfigured.
Oh yeah, he would be fried to unalive.
I mean, it's funny because now we got the bat signal, but no, he's gonna be toast.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Again, it's Batman. Is he actively killing people? No, but he's got a real complete disregard for life.
Yeah. There is no way that Wayne holds and then pulls up Ducard off of that cliff. There's no way.
I have that too. That would have ripped his shoulder right out of the socket. Probably both
He's
of them.
done.
The one that hits the mountain and the one that catches Ducard. But it would have both shoulders at
and
the very
Liam
least.
Neeson is
That would have been
like
the very
6'5".
least injury. Yeah. Yeah.
He's a huge dude.
The least injury he would have is 2 dislocated shoulders.
Yeah. I hate Rachel. She's a cliche machine, and I hate her. So I just wanted to say that.
But I thought we already established that.
I needed to say it again.
Okay.
When Bruce first meets Rachel, he speaks and then takes a few beats to get into his bat voice. He clearly sounds like Bruce.
Yeah.
It's like she would have called that right away.
Yeah.
The end fight between Bruce and Ghoul doesn't really make sense. Because train's gonna crash. It's time to go, homie. There's no need for the fisticuffs going on here.
Yeah, let's get to the end game here.
Yeah. And my last thing, I haven't said it yet, but Rachel is the absolute worst, and I hate Katie Holmes.
Oh, that's really interesting, because I had that as my number 1 thing.
Yeah,
so that's
I know,
interesting that you brought that up.
Yeet.
Did I just miss it? I was looking down.
Sure did.
Son of a...
What do you got?
All right. Well, the first thing I have is that Katie Holmes is absolutely terrible in this movie.
She's the villain.
More than anything else. Like, I know this movie had a bunch of villains in it, but I feel like she's the worst. And what actually, and in all seriousness, what really bothers me is the really ridiculous amount of idealism that she has. I hate the scene of her in the car with post-college
She cuts over
Bruce.
10 lanes of traffic, and she's just going to give him a moral, ethical lesson about what he missed.
Right. Like,
give me a break.
This is what real life is like. This is what people are struggling with. And then when he like opens himself up, this deep wound he has, and says like, I'll never get the chance to take revenge, and then she slaps him and is like,
twice.
Your father would be ashamed of you. All right, that is not going to make him any less of being in a dark place.
But also, who are you? Who are you to say that? Your best friend of childhood is hurting, and he just watched the murderer of his parents Not only
go free because you got bigger fish to fry, and then get gunned down in front of him, which is another
you don't
traumatic
think the
event.
psychology of that is going to have an effect on him? And yeah, of course he might have a gun because he thought maybe he had to protect himself. Yes, he admits that maybe he was going to take matters into his own hands. You've got the moral gall to slap him not once but twice?
So that scene in particular, but I think the whole movie, her idealism is just misplaced and weird and dismissive of the people around her. So
She should get locked up in Arkham.
She's just the worst. She's the absolute worst. I think that they got rid of. Not. I think they got rid of. I think that the fact that they got rid of the supernatural element of Ra's al Ghul, was unfortunate.
Limiting.
You know, he's supposed to be. You know, the stuff with the Lazarus pits. He's supposed to be somewhat immortal. And I think that they, that was a missed opportunity. Kind of the same with the Scarecrow. I think Scarecrow was kind of wasted in this movie. They took two villains they had not done before in any previous movie. They had not done them on the old TV series, so they had like really a really fresh framework to work with, and I think that they just really missed the mark with both characters.
I understand what you're saying. The only combative part of me is like, again, it's not a villain story. It's his origin story, but again, the movie's about fear, and these guys are the manifestations of it. That's the only response I could give to that, but I understand what you're saying.
I see what you're saying with that, but I think if you're going to put them in, do them correctly. Like, I don't think that adding in the elements that makes those characters who they are would take away from that message or take away from that story build. It just would make it more authentic for me as a fan. Like we said, he is kind of an executioner. Even though he moments before says, "I'm no executioner." That's also kind of an awkward scene when he's like, "No, I'm not. I'm not." Like very timidly is like, "No, I'm not gonna do it."
I don't do this.
But why does he? Maybe you can explain this to me. Why does he save Ducard more than, but doesn't bother saving the lives of, the fake Ra's al Ghul, doesn't save the lives of any of the other soldiers that he's just spent all this time with training and learning and whatever?
Because Ducard is the one who saw him, who gave him a path, who pulled him out of jail. He's the surrogate father figure. He's the trainer that he never had.
But Ducard still has the mentality of taking not innocent lives, but being an executioner of innocent lives, saying that he wants to destroy Gotham.
But
so just like everybody else in the temple, he's got the same mentality as them. So why?
Yes, but he only realizes that right at that moment. And up until that point, he believes that he wants the greater good and he's training him for his ultimate purpose. It's not until the rug gets pulled out from him where he's like, oh, crap. This isn't who I thought it was, but that doesn't eliminate probably months of relationship building trust, and he feels like he owes him, so he saves him.
I don't know.
They know.
But so along with that, the scene in the house when he's like, justice is balance. You burned my house down, I burned yours down. Okay, yes, but also he saved your life, and you are leaving him to die. He says, you burned down my house and left me for dead. No, I didn't. I caught your body from falling off a cliff, then carried you down a mountain and left you with someone who could care and tend for you.
Yeah, sure, but you're going to reason with the bad guy?
You let a pillar of fire drop on me and burn my house down around me and left someone to stand guard to make sure that I burned. So that's not really a justice is balance kind of thing. So I call...
No, but that is the moment when the villain not only reappears because you thought he was gone, but he shifts into the real bad guy. He becomes the antagonist. Because no, you're absolutely right. That's not fair, and it's not what happened. But you don't get to argue with evil. He's not evil up until that point. Now he is.
I understand that, but then the line that he says of justice is balance, you burned down my house, I burned down yours, and you left me for dead, doesn't make any sense because that's not what happened.
It does make sense because justice is a matter of perspective. According to Ducard, that is what happened.
Yeah, it doesn't work for me. Okay, actually, yeah, more about that whole scene. When Bruce walks into the room, they're already in the middle of singing Happy Birthday. Who were they singing to?
That was the, hey, get your butt in here because we're going to celebrate you.
Right, but they were already in the middle of the song. Were they just singing it as a sing-along when, like, whose party is this again? Why are we all here?
No, it was the cue. It's the, okay, I don't know where he is, but once we start singing, he'll walk in.
No. And I thought also his speech to get everybody out of the room was really unbelievable and stupid.
It's sort of like,
it was awkward and weird, and it was not done well. He had no practice with the car, and yet he drives it like a pro.
You see that he has no practice.
Right. Oh, you mean
or you don't see it. Yeah.
Where is he going to practice?
It doesn't mean it didn't happen.
Nah.
He also never pees, Chris.
No, I call crap. I call crap on it.
I'm going to call crap on you.
You would. I know that we already said that we don't like Rachel, but I thought especially the ending there would, like the ending scene when they're in the wreckage of Wayne Manor, that was badly done. Batman also kills police when he's driving the car and all those police cars crash.
Yeah.
We let good guys die too, Mr. I'm not an executioner. And I have two more things. Actually, three. So one of the elemental things I think is the movie that Batman goes to see. In this, they went to see the play Die Fledermaus.
Yeah.
The opera. In every other depiction, he goes to see the Mark of Zorro. And that's part of what inspires his
Batman persona.
Part of what inspires the Batman persona of wearing a mask, wearing all black, being, this, agent for good by doing the wrong thing.
Yeah, but Chris, we knew all that already. We don't need to see it again.
You're right. But if you're going to show it correctly. You changed it.
Yeah. And
I didn't like it. What 9-year-old kid is going to sit through an opera? Take him to an action movie. So silly.
Maybe.
The microwave emitter. That's a MacGuffin if I ever saw one.
OMG science.
That is a microwave emitter. Just ridiculous.
What do those words even mean?
And then the last thing I have that I just wanted to say for the end is Katie Holmes is just really not good in this movie. And,
she is the worst.
The character of Rachel is not great to begin with, and she just makes it worse.
Amen.
Yeah, I was just kind of bored for most of it.
Well, if it's just about Katie Holmes, yeah, I get that. But it's so much more. It's so much more.
Yes.
Now, our audience knows this, but you don't. I have yeeted at least 4 times.
I saw it once out of the corner of my eye. But
okay,
I guess I'm going to have to get it on the rewatch.
I've got some spiritual stuff, and it's not what I thought I was going to walk out with, but it was really interesting. Usually when I look for spiritual content, it's a line, it's an action, but this one was sort of the film, the entire film, because the entire movie is a fall and redemption.
Mm-hmm.
So walk with me here. I'm gonna be stretching a lot, and you can roll your eyes, and that's totally fine. But it does start out with 2 innocent humans in a garden, and through a pursuit of one of their desires, the relationship is broken and there's a literal fall. And then once the fall starts, the environment becomes broken. There's murder, there's injustice, there's greed, there's hunger, there's evil, and it's corrupting the place that the Father had intended for good. And this is where my main spiritual thought is.
I hate everything about this lead up. I just want you to know that.
I don't
Everything
care
you are
what you
doing is
say.
bad. I want you to know
I
this.
want you to know this. Bruce, he also continues to understand his own depravity through the brokenness of the environment, but it's not until he realizes that to fix the thing, I have to become the thing. It's his recognition that there's fear everywhere. It is that line that you hate. Bats frighten me. It's time my enemies understood my dread. But
My dread.
to become... he's got the lisp thread. But it's not until he decides to become fear that he can help save the city. So the verse that came to mind was 2 Corinthians 5:21. It says, "For our sake, he," that's Jesus, "made him to be sin who knew no sin, so that in him we might become the righteousness of God." Essentially, Jesus became the thing, embodied our brokenness of humanity, our falling short, all of it. He became that on the cross for us so that he could defeat it. And there is no other way around that. And I just saw that so clearly within this. I don't know if Nolan went out of his way to draw the parallelism and all of that. Maybe he did. He's Nolan. One of the ways I've explained Christopher Nolan movies is like you're standing in line at Dairy Queen and he's describing the molecular structure of ice cream for you. It's like, nah, I'm just here for ice cream. So he goes above and beyond, and maybe he went above and beyond, but it was just so apparent to me from a filmmaking perspective that to fix the system, which was broken by fear, he had to become it so that something greater could emerge. And that really is the story of Jesus. It really is the redemption arc that we see throughout the Bible that will play out through all of time, that God is constantly redeeming his broken creation.
Yeah, I think that's good. I think there's some good stuff in there.
Yeet.
I saw that one. Yeet.
That's for you. What'd you find?
For me, well, like you said, for me it was a line, and it was the scene that I've both praised and not praised. I can't think of the negative word, but
Not
it's
praised.
when
Hated?
Ducard is presenting Bruce with the sword and says, this man is a murderer. He became a murderer, and it's your job now to exact justice on him. And that compassion is a trait that your enemies will not share. And he says, well, that's why it's so important, because it makes us better. And that's something that really stood out to me, and is something that we're, called to do. Romans says to never avenge yourself. In Matthew 5, Jesus says, you've heard it said, an eye for an eye, but I tell you to turn the other cheek. We're called so many times by Jesus to not take vengeance. Vengeance is mine, says the Lord. We're called to love your enemies. What is it? Love your enemies and do good to those who persecute you.
Yes.
And I just feel like it's something that we're lacking so much in the faith community today, is this idea of compassion. We get our hackles up and we get our armor on and we say, you can't say anything bad about what I think or what I believe. You can't be different than what I feel is the way you should be. And if you are, I'm going to fight you, instead of acting with love. And when we're hit first, we don't act with compassion, we act with vengeance. We have to bite back, we have to comment back, we have to hit back, we have to, get the bigger stick. And it's unfortunate that in our pursuit to want to be right or righteous, we lose the core principle of compassion and love. And that doesn't mean you have to agree with everything with another person. That doesn't mean you have to condone everything that other people do or anything like that. But what you do need to do is work alongside others with compassion and with love, because that's what's supposed to set you apart. That's what's supposed to make you different when you're a person of faith. And when you don't do that, to me, you're just as bad as you think everyone else is. So, I think that that's something we all need to take a hard look at, is how much compassion do we have for our, enemies, and how much love do we have for those who would come against us for whatever reason. So that was I think is an important message there.
The other spiritual thing I saw was that Katie Holmes is the worst.
Oh, I had that originally, but I thought that was too much low-hanging fruit.
Yep.
She's clearly
speaking
the
of fruit,
devil in disguise. Oh, yes, she is.
We gotta rate this movie. Chris, what do you give this film? And did I change any of your minds?
No.
I didn't change anything?
No. I mean, look, I didn't disagree with
Fine.
some of your points, but look, this will be something that, again, this falls into one of those movies that, will I watch it again? Maybe one day when my son is old enough to watch the Dark Knight trilogy is when I'll watch it again, but this isn't something I'll put on for fun. It isn't something I'll, look back super fondly on. It's kind of boring. I don't like some of the changes they made, and I think it's a weak entry point into a much better movie in its sequel. So for me, it's a Pattinson. It's fine. It's okay. It's there. Is it better than some of its predecessors? Of course. Is it as good as some of what came after it? No, not really at all. It's not even as good as some of the things that came before it. It's just kind of right there in the middle. It's not bad. It's not good. It's just there. So,
You uncultured swine.
also, we never discussed the voice.
What voice?
Where are your drugs? Swear to me.
I called it a broken garbage disposal in the synopsis.
Oh, that's true. It's bad. It gets worse as the movies go on, but it's bad.
It's bad, but this movie, to me, is a Conroy. It's perfect in its execution. Yes, it's got some issues. There is the rebirth of a character after the dumpster fire of the Batman 90s, at least the last two before it. It's the first chapter of one of the best trilogies in film history, period, the end. I thought it was a great character study. It has something to say, and it says it well. It looks good. It feels good. Katie Holmes sucks, but every rose has its thorn. And to me, this is a flawless film. I will watch it any day of the week.
Ugh. Well, I'm sorry you feel that way.
But what do you think, audience? Great movie? Not great movie? I'm not the one wearing Yeet on a hat.
Yeet.
Leave us a comment on social platforms. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube right here. And as always, thank you so much for your support. We do this for you. We mostly do it for ourselves, but we like that you like it. So give us a follow, share this episode, and Chris, take us out.
And as he said, we're about to head out. So remember, kids, all you need to do is worry about your chest, because your arms will take care of themselves. Yeet.
Just leave the rolls with a full tank of gas, will you? That made me crack up.
I mean, again, any of the parts with Alfred are great film and great storytelling.
Yep.
Never. That's one thing I do say all the time is like that. Is I say that like that all the time. It's like, oh,
It's the snark.
Are you? Can you?
I also love the. What the hell are you doing all those bloody push-ups for then?
If you can't lift a bloody log, what are all those push-ups for?
Yeet.
Never.